there's a big difference in the lived experience of racial inequality that's been going on for over 4 centuries in your country, in your own homeland, versus us, where we had colonial exploitations, in faraway areas. In most European countries, it's only after the Second World War that people had to start getting used to a diverse society and people coming in from all those ex-colonies, and trying to figure out how to live together. And in the Netherlands specifically, my eyes were sort of opened last week as we went to a protest against the statue of Koen, who was a admiral in the Dutch East India Trading Company. He was renowned for keeping the monopoly on the spice trade, and he did so with a very hard rule. Actually, by committing genocide, he first torched all of the nutmeg plantations, and then proceeded to kill 14 out of 15,000 of the inhabitants of the Maluku Islands of Banda in the Indonesian archipelago. And the guy has a statue because he was, he got the job done. Nowadays, the people who lived in the Maluku Islands, a lot of them live in the Netherlands nowadays, because the Netherlands lost its colony of Indonesia back in the late 40s. And the Maluku people, they were loyal to the Dutch military. They were fighting their own people in Indonesia. So they had to come with us back to the Netherlands, where they were actually put into the derelict concentration camps from the Second World War.
Oh, wow.
Yes, just waiting for the tide to turn so they could be returned back to Indonesia, which never happened. Till this day, these people, they live here. Now it's the third and fourth generation, and they have been treated horribly. They were discharged from military service without any honors. They were, I think, even stateless, the first generation, housed in horrible barracks that should have been, not used for anything after what they were used for. And never there were any excuses or reparations. And, coming back to that protest last Friday, I expected a whole lot of different people to be there, but I was amazed to see all of the Maluku flags. And then I realized, of course, they have a very special connection to this person and this statue specifically. And for them too, this is a history of oppression that's been going on for over 350 years. So even though for us as native Dutch people, we don't have this century-long difficult ethnical relationships, but for the people who have been transported or placed here, like from the Maluku Islands, this has been an ongoing, continuing history spanning over 3 centuries. And then I thought, this is not so different from what's happening in the US, right? And if anything, they have the right to voice their concerns here and, say why is this guy on a pillar? He's celebrated here for something that he could only pull off by committing genocide. He killed most of the inhabitants of that island. So why does this guy even, why is he still here? Why would you celebrate somebody who commits genocide?
So is there a broader push there too for reparations, or right now is it more concerned with, with monuments and with kind of images and figureheads?
It's mostly the imagery, but it's also symbolic, right? I mean, the Dutch royal family has a a golden carriage that they ride around in on the Queen's or the King's birthday. And it's being restored right now, so they are using a modern day glass version. But the old one, it's full of panels with old imagery of the colonies, the treasures in the West and in the
Wow.
East, and with black people in servile positions, tending to the needs of the white oppressors, and that's a celebration from back in the day. It's not something to prance around with, and yet it's still few years ago it still happened, and people are, I think, rightfully challenging these traditions. Whether they should be completely removed or not, that's something to discuss. But at least the status quo should be challenged. But reparations, I think, I'm very much with the cause of the Maluku people. It's an insane history of what the Dutch have done in Indonesia and how they treated these people specifically. And I would say that there is a case for reparations there, but that's not something that's being actively pushed right now. One other thing that's been sort of taken from this US debate is the concept of institutional racism. And that's one I find troubling, because as I've researched and traveled across the South for this film, I learned so much about what it actually means within an American context. And it's not as clear cut that you can just use phrases or concepts like that without translating the context to a Dutch or a European situation. And it's not like it's not here, but we don't have things like redlining and gerrymandering or prison industrial complex.
Right.
If you see in all the ways in which all these systems and ways of keeping the people in power who wanted to or who were in power, disenfranchising black people, if you put all those pieces together, it's a horrible picture,
Right.
in a way that is rightfully being attacked, and all the more power to the people who want to overthrow these systems that are still in place. But it's almost preposterous to use Dutch situation in the Dutch context, where this country was not created in that fashion. Our laws are protecting equality of people and similar treatment, even though in some ways that doesn't always work out as well, because we recently had a scandal about the Dutch tax service actually using ethnic profiling to I don't know, look for tax evaders or whatever, and they target people of Surinamese descent specifically, for example. These are things that, of course, are problematic, or where people who have an Arabic last name are have difficulty finding employment, just because of their name. There's racism, and in some ways that is part of our institutions, but not in the way it is in the US. And I think it's very very scary to see how these dynamics and the same energy and the same vocabulary, it gets used in this context, where we should be looking at our own problems and even maybe using your own terminology for it, but it doesn't help taking cues from somebody else's story like this if it's so different.
And I mean, I'm sure traveling through those sections of the rural South that you did, I tell people all the time that when you're traveling through those areas, you see just how little we have evolved from a system of slavery.
Right.
Especially I'm thinking specifically up in the Delta. Some of those areas you go through and you don't think you're 20 years out of slavery. The kind of just soul crushing poverty. And again, all the things you listed still doesn't include what these monuments are finally coming down for, which is police brutality and police murders of unarmed Black people in America, which has always been the case since the days of slavery, but has, of course, gotten to the point now where it's just inundating media everywhere. And so people know about it, and people are rightfully acting on it. Now, given that, and given the timing of the debut of Monumental Crossroads, just in the past few weeks, what do you think the film's role will be in the aftermath of the monuments coming down? Because I think that's where we're headed, right? As pretty much all of them are going to come down.
Well, they have been at a rapid pace. I think there's already 3 in the film that no longer exist. So that's it's going at a rapid pace. Though I read that the Mayor Stoney of Richmond said that he wanted to remove all the monuments on Monument Avenue in Richmond. But I think some lower court judge has now sort of barred that from happening for the time being again. So it's a chess game. There are still a lot of people who are in control, who find their ways of not going on with this. And one case, a Confederate monument in Birmingham, Alabama, protesters were trying to remove this huge granite obelisk of, I don't know, 30 feet tall, I don't know how much. And the mayor actually dissuaded them and said, well, please just give me till tomorrow. I'll get it fixed because you will get yourself hurt. It might fall on people, and please let me do it. So there you see that the protesters actually, they forced their way through a stalemate that has been there for years, because it's in the film how local activists had been pushing to get that monument removed for years, and they got a unanimous vote for it to be removed, and then Alabama pushed a monument protection bill, and they couldn't do anything with it except just board it up. And it's in the film. It's such a cynical and sad scene, and even now that monument is gone, still that scene exemplifies a way of dealing with these kind of issues, and sort of the distance between the powers that be, basically, and the voice of the people